Good morning, and welcome to Morning Movie News, where some of you might already have your Harry Potter and the Cursed Child theater tickets for both parts, because they went on sale today at 11 a.m. UK time to those who had signed up for priority booking. And I actually signed up for priority booking. Anyone could, but I didn't buy any tickets because I'm not going to be in London when both parts run simultaneously. However, I am interested to know if any of you are part of that hallowed group that were able to participate in the first round of ticket buying. Now, don't panic. If you didn't sign up for priority ticket buying, tickets to the general public are going to go on sale on this Friday, October 30th. And I think it's interesting that people are buying tickets without knowing who's cast in the play. And that's made even more interesting. It's compounded by the recent synopsis that was released, which reveals that Harry Potter as an adult is going to be in this play. And I'm very curious as to who will be playing adult Harry Potter. Now, again, they haven't announced who it will be, and so part of me wonders if maybe Daniel Radcliffe might even return for this show. He's interested in theater, as we all know. He's bared it all, literally, on the stage. And so I can see him maybe wanting to return to the theater for this kind of production, but at the same time, he's also very much in demand. And I think that while he has done a lot of theater, I think he really needs to focus on his movie career at this point and make sure that he gets that solidly off the ground outside of the Harry Potter franchise. And that hasn't worked out so well for him, actually. And I don't think that Victor Frankenstein is going to help matters very much. Even though I think it's a great role for him, just from the first trailer, it didn't quite materialize as I think many of us and Daniel Radcliffe's management and Daniel Radcliffe himself would have hoped. So I could see him maybe doing this. But anyway, what's the synopsis? Well, it says it was always difficult being Harry Potter, and it isn't much easier now that he is an overworked employee of the Ministry of Magic, a husband and a father of 3 school-aged children. While Harry grapples with a past that refuses to stay where it belongs, his youngest son, Albus, must struggle with the weight of a family legacy he never wanted. As past and present fuse ominously, both father and son learn the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes darkness comes from unexpected places. Ooh, will Harry Potter Jr. turn evil? Who knows? It sounds like a very good story, and one that will probably eventually become a movie. So if you don't get theater tickets, if you're willing to wait, 5 or 6 years, you'll probably get a movie version of this. It sounds really good, and in some ways I think more commercially viable perhaps than Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, but we'll wait till we see some actual photos from that. It's filming right now though, so they're doing an excellent job keeping any set leaks from that movie, then of course any teasers or trailers. But this sounds excellent to me, and so it does beg the question, who will play Harry Potter? And also, how could his child possibly have a worse situation than his dad, right? I mean, that's an uncomfortable dinner table conversation to have to witness, right? But I'm curious, how does that sound to you? And do any of you have your tickets, or do you plan to buy tickets? I think it's going to be rough to get them, although this is kind of flown under the radar. I think when they start making some casting announcements, maybe it will get a little bit more attention, and certainly would get a lot of attention if Daniel Radcliffe were to star. But it's funny that people are buying tickets without the confirmation of who they'll be watching. But I have to be honest, if I was in the UK during this show's run, I would definitely buy tickets no matter who was in it, because I'm very curious to see what it will be. And I do think that J.K. Rowling and Warner Brothers have a really good brand going here in terms of not just the story and the brand itself, but I think they're pretty consistent with the quality, from the movies to the merchandise to the theme park. All right, so that's the first story of the day. And the second story of the day, talking about there's a potential casting change with Harry Potter, but there's a definite casting change with Colossus over in the X-Men universe with Fox, and they have cast a Russian stuntman, Andrei Tricotru. I can't pronounce his name because I'm not Russian. Tricotru. And he's actually been giving interviews, and he's talking to the Hollywood Reporter, and it was picked up by a bunch of other people. I think actually maybe Tech Times picked it up first, and then Hollywood Reporter picked it up, and then it kept getting regurgitated across the internet about how this Colossus is going to be so much more loyal to the origins of the character in the comic. But because of course originally Daniel Cudmore played him, and while Daniel Cudmore had the size and the basic look physically, he really, didn't really convey Colossus as like this Russian immigrant, and the whole his relationship with his sister Ilyana, which is a really big part of the character, and also Kitty Pryde. I mean, Colossus is one of the few male characters who's largely defined by his relationships with other people. That's usually reserved only for female characters. But anyway, Daniel Cudmore never really got to do anything with him. I think partially because Daniel Cudmore, no offense to Daniel Cudmore, not a huge talent, but also really wasn't given a lot of opportunity either, if we're going to be totally fair. But I think that this Russian stuntman, I think it's a little bit of a misdirect to claim that he is going to finally make Colossus come into his own right. Like, I think, looking at the kind of movie that Deadpool is, I don't think they're really going to set aside time for character development for Colossus. I think, he's largely going to show up in his, metal form, crack some jokes, maybe have a Russian accent, allow Deadpool to make some Russian Rusky jokes, and then he's going to get out of there, right? I mean, I think that's largely why he's there. And I think it's very interesting that Fox continues to treat this character more as a visual effect than an actual three-dimensional character. And again, as I said, he has some really great storylines, but, I don't think, obviously, the movies want to go in those directions. So I would almost prefer that Colossus maybe be saved for that New Mutants project they're working on, because, of course, Ilyana Rasputin is a very big part of that, if not one of the most famous and most popular New Mutants. So I'm curious, what do you think? How do you think the Colossus has been treated by the movies? Do you have any hope that this Russian stuntman is going to do him justice after Daniel Cudmore did not or could not? And also, what do you think of this stuntman going out there and taking interviews? I think it really kind of shows that the studio has to have a little bit more control over their talent. All right, so that's the second story of the day. Now, the third story of the day is about a Kickstarter project that I think is both, it's a mixed bag, and so I'm curious to what you think of it. Dragon's Lair was a video game way back in the day, and it was done during the heyday of Don Bluth animation. Don Bluth, was one of the first people to try and challenge the monopoly that Disney had over animated fare, and he did a pretty darn good job. He did like Secret of Nim. He did a whole bunch of like Dogs Go to Heaven movies. Really talented filmmaker. Anastasia was a little bit of a hit for him. Not quite at the level of Disney. I think when he tried to copy Disney too much is when he faltered. But when he tried to be, I think, a little bit more faithful to, he did Thumbelina, for instance. I think when he tried to be a little bit more faithful to his own style and to be a little bit darker, that it worked out better. But anyway, Dragon's Lair was a video game that he did the animation for, like the in-between animation and the setup. And it was, really very well done. Don Bluth, whatever he might have lacked in storytelling qualities, he made it for in spades with his visual flair. And I think has come the closest to the warmth and the cartoonish aspects of Disney than anyone else. Also, he does hand-drawn animation, which of course is beloved by many. And so Dragon's Lair holds a special place in the heart of many fans. And so he's doing a Kickstarter project to potentially make a Dragon's Lair movie. So what he needs is $500,000, $550,000, to make a 10-minute test reel to shop around to the studio so that he can get the $70 million budget that he needs for this. Now, on first glance, this sounds like a fantastic idea. I think that Don Bluth, finally, because everybody else has abandoned hand-drawn animation, could maybe really make some solid money for himself if he were to be the only one doing it, right? Like, he's like, I'm the last one left, and I think he would get all the animation fans that, hand-drawn still matters to, which I would suspect is quite a bit. $70 million is a bit steep, but when you consider how much animated movies usually cost, that's not too bad. I wonder also if maybe Don Bluth could be a little more Teflon than some of the other animated movies that have come out recently that aren't made with a major respected animation studio. I'm talking about Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return. Really solid, cute little animated movie that I thought was actually pretty darn good, which was just crucified by some animation fans for daring to go up against Disney and DreamWorks Animation and the like. And I was really surprised by that reaction. Really a witch hunt to some degree. And so maybe because of Don Bluth's background, he could escape that and be like, again, as I said, Teflon. But then here's what's weird, and I put a link down below to the Kickstarter page if you want to go watch the video that they put together, and if you want to donate, you want to contribute to seeing Dragon's Lair at least become a 10-minute pitch. But I was really surprised at the lack of professionalism with the Kickstarter video. I mean, a lot of people make Kickstarter videos, obviously, these days, and I'd say that almost like 95% of them do a better job than Don Bluth and Gary Goldman. I was really surprised that they seemed stuck in the era of when they were making movies, like 80s, early 90s. And it was just a very, very odd thing to see, and it showed, I feel, like a real lack of professional judgment that if I were a studio, would make me nervous about giving these guys $70 million, right? I mean, Don Bluth is a very, well-respected person in the field of animation, and, they say he's doing theater right now, and I was like, oh, what kind of theater is he doing? And then they show where he's working, and it just was really, it was, no offense to Don Bluth and his theater troupe, but it really was like community theater, right? It's a theater troupe in Arizona. Originally it performed in his living room, but now it has its own small theater. But like the level of professionalism was really sorely lacking. And it's odd for someone who was a professional to go that route. So I kind of questioned Don Bluth's judgment as a business person in many ways when I watched that video. And I hope that their pitch video is better than that. I mean, it really gave me pause for investing in the project. So I'm curious, go watch it. What do you think? And I also think it's a really good lesson that you have to be on the ball in every area of your pitch, in every area, in every regard. It's not just enough to have a good idea. You have to look the part. You have to look like someone could give $70 million, and you would do a good, responsible job with it, right? And I think that Don Bluth's video does not convey that. All right, so that's the third story of the day. Now we're back to the viewer questions today. And I have one from Jacob McDonald. And this also has to do a little bit with potential casting changes. I tried to have a theme, but Don Bluth messed it up. But anyway, Jacob said, hello from Canada, Grace. I love listening to morning movie news while I work out, and he used some cute emojis there, after school. I was wondering if you'd talk about Reese Witherspoon's comments she had made about a potential Legally Blonde 3. Legally Blonde is one of my all-time favorite films next to American Beauty, Billy Elliot, and Titanic. Do you think Elle Woods could take on the White House? 4 smiley faces. Well, let me just bring you up to speed as to what Jacob's talking about. Reese Witherspoon was recently doing an interview, and she was asked about Legally Blonde 3, and she said, I think it is time for Elle to return. I would love to see her, try to take on the White House, obviously, because of what's going on with Hillary Clinton, kind of do like a spoof commentary on that, or to see her maybe be in the Senate, or I believe Reese Witherspoon mentioned the Supreme Court. There are a lot of things that Reese Witherspoon's Elle Woods could go on to do. But then she said, there have been scripts floated out over the years of people trying to come up with a Legally Blonde 3, but at the end of the day, it's really up to MGM, and that's who you need to ask about it. And so I thought that was very interesting, because it makes one wonder, would they potentially try to reboot the Legally Blonde franchise? Because Reese Witherspoon, not a big box office draw these days. And to be fair, she kind of did it to herself by choosing not great projects. I questioned her recent casting as a live-action Tink for the exact same reason. So if I was MGM, I'd be a little bit nervous as to whether or not Elle Woods could come back in a way that was worth investing in a Legally Blonde 3 with Reese Witherspoon still in the lead role. Also, I feel that, with all that's moved forward with the way women are portrayed in film, I think that Elle Woods, that's kind of like a little bit like Clueless, etc. I don't know, it would be, I think, tough maybe to modernize that. But I think Legally Blonde definitely has a fan base, went on to be a play, actually, I believe a musical on Broadway. So it's definitely a brand, and I think there is something to be said for bringing it back, but I don't know if I would do it with Reese Witherspoon, almost entirely because of what she's done to her own career outside of the Legally Blonde franchise. I totally think she could still play the part, but I just don't know if anybody would be interested in seeing it. So I'm curious, are you interested in a Legally Blonde 3? And if you are, would it be with Reese Witherspoon or without Reese Witherspoon? And do you think that Elle Woods' story is still relevant today when women actually do serve on, more than one on the Supreme Court? And then also we have women, legitimately running for president. So, and also in both parties, no less. So it's a very tricky situation, but Jacob obviously would be very interested in seeing it. And so I guess my final answer would be I would explore doing a Legally Blonde 3, but I would, if the very least, if I didn't recast Elle Woods, I would look very hard at bringing in a new actress to for Reese Witherspoon to pass the torch to, right? All right, so that's today's morning movie news. Thank you so much for your question, Jacob. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please write down below what you think of today's top 3 stories and that viewer question, anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.